What if I told you that you have been making the exact same mistake that keeps most people from ever reaching their dream life? And no, it's not because you're lazy or you're not working hard enough. I spent years in that same cycle, writing down my goals, buying a new planner, chasing motivation, but nothing ever truly changed. That's until I discovered one simple shift that flipped everything for me. And once you see that, you will never be able to think about your dream life or set goals the same way again. Today, I'm sharing with you the game-changing two-step system that turns your dream life into an autopilot routine so success becomes inevitable. And through this system, we're gonna fix the one critical mistake that most people make that keep them from ever reaching their dream lives. But once you fix it, and we will, everything starts falling into place. Stick with me, and by the end of the video, you will know exactly how to reframe your goals to fit into your dream life and create a routine that practically runs itself when bringing all of that to reality. Trust me, this is the secret hack you've been waiting for. Okay, let's be honest. When we dream about our goals and the life that we want to build, we have the best of intentions. But here's the problem that no one seems to be talking about. We are going about this process all wrong without even realizing it. Tell me if this sounds familiar. It's the end of the year and you go to a cute coffee shop to dream about your next year. I even brought coffee to help you make it. It's fresh and it's delicious. You decide that this is gonna be your year. And after much consideration and thinking about all the goals that you wanna reach, you sign up for a new gym. You get home and you throw out all the bad food from your pantry. You buy a book about writing a book, and you sign up for a course on how to make six figures from this content creator that you really admire. You feel unstoppable. Nobody and nothing is gonna drag you down. Cue to February. You're snoozing through your 5 a.m. alarm again and skipping gym for the third time this week, and it's only Tuesday. You're ordering takeout every single night. And that book about writing, it's completely abandoned, collecting dust with all your other books forgotten in your bookshelf. You are feeling bad about that, and then you open your computer, check your emails, and you got an automated email from the creator that you bought the six-figure course from. And you look at that and you just feel defeated. Another year, another time that you feel like you failed. If all of this feels a little too real, do not worry. I do not have cameras around your house. What I'm describing to you is my life at the end of 2019. Just a few months before I found the one thing I'm sharing today that completely changed everything. But at that point, I was feeling like a failure. I was stuck in a cycle, like a lot of us are, of motivation, guilt, and frustration. But here's the real reason on why we keep on failing. It turns out that psychology has a name for this: false hope syndrome. A 2000 study by psychologists Polivy and Herm, and mine. Okay, let me say their names correctly. I'm reading from my computer so I can say their names correctly. A 2002 study by psychologists Polivy and Herman found that most ambitious self-change attempts fail because, surprise, surprise, we set unrealistic expectations for how quickly and easily we can transform. I'm not gonna lie, reading the research hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt personally attacked by the researchers because I was like, why are you describing my life, and why are you saying that the reason why I keep failing is myself? Like, how dare you? The whole study basically found out that when our goals are too big, any slip up feel like a total failure, and then we ended up giving up on them completely. And that's the one critical mistake that most people keep making when trying to build their dream life. Trying to force monumental changes overnight, relying solely on willpower, and chasing fleeting spurs of motivation and inspiration. Stuck in the cycle of trial and defeat, thinking that if we wake up earlier, if we work harder, if we do more things, then things are gonna figure themselves out. But what if the secret isn't doing more things, but doing less things in a smarter way? What if we could reverse engineer your dream life and build it into reality with small, daily, repeatable actions? I realized that the missing piece was a two-part system. Part one is all about reverse engineering your life. Imagine that you want to build a beautiful, sturdy house. One of the first steps is to decide on the design of the house. And once you decide on the design of the house, you need to figure out which materials are going to make that dream work. You're going to need to identify exactly which type of bricks do you need, for example. In our lives, those little bricks are the small daily actions that support the vision for a big dream. And that simply means starting with the end big picture in mind and then working backwards. starts. Welcome to your favorite daytime show, Coffee with Isabelle. I'm your host, Isabelle. I like a volunteer from the audience to tell me about their dream life so we can verse engineer together for the listeners at home. So anyone? Any volunteers? Anyone? You lady with the pink hat in the back. Can you tell us about your dream life? Uh-huh. Oh, wow. Okay. I love that for you. Okay, I'm gonna share that with our listeners at home, okay? So, our lady with the, can you tell me your name, darling? Oh, you prefer to remain anonymous. Okay, you want to be called lady with the pink hat? Okay, our friend over here, the lady with the pink hat, just shared with us that her dream life is being an international best-selling author, dating a Hollywood star, winning the lottery, and traveling around the world in a private jet as she drinks Coke Zero. I know, very specific but beautiful. We love it. We're here to support. It's actually the perfect dream to teach us exactly how to reverse engineer our dream life. Before we go to the next step, I would like to invite you to dream and think about your dream life. Maybe you know exactly what your dream life is like, and maybe you're like, I kind of never really fully stopped to think about, or know aspects of it, but I never thought about it as a whole. If you need some guidance, there is a question that I always ask myself when I need to reset my plans, and I always ask my clients when we start working together in reverse engineering their dream life. And the question is, what would a day in your life be like if money was no object? If money was not a problem, what would your life be? What would your day be? Your week be? Your month be? And maybe you're like, wow, if money was not a problem, I would be in a resort in Ibiza and I would be trotting all over Europe with a boo in my arm. And that's great. Let's think about that because that gives us some very good information. But I want you to think about your life on a random Tuesday in May. What would that day be like? Where would you wake up? Who would be by your side? Where would you be leaving? What would you work with? Like, what would your day be like if money was no object? Take a few minutes, maybe pause the video, or maybe keep that question running in your mind and think about that. Now, the dream of Our Lady with the Pink Hat has many aspects to it, and I'm sure that if you started thinking about your dream life, it also has many aspects to it. It's not just one thing. There is where you live, who you are with. If you work, what do you work with? Like, how do you make money? There's so many aspects of it, and that's great. That's exactly what we want, because that's where step number one of reverse engineering your dream life comes in. Break down the different components of your dream life. We are gonna break this down. Instead of chasing this abstract idea of success, over here, we're gonna pinpoint exactly what success means to you. What are the ingredients in your recipe for success? Let's suppose that you're gonna bake a beautiful chocolate cake with chocolate fudge on top of it. That's the final goal. That's the final product that you want ready. But for that chocolate cake with chocolate fudge to happen, you will need flour, you need eggs, you need milk, you need sugar. There is a lot of ingredients necessary so that final product can happen. So when you're thinking about your dream life, we need to break it down to look at what are the ingredients that compose your dream life. What are the ingredients in the recipe for your dream life? So for example, Our Lady with the Pink Hat, we know the big picture of your dream life, but if we're breaking down into components, we have a few things. Things like being a published author, dating someone successful, being financially wealthy, the freedom to travel around the world, and having a Coke Zero in her hand whenever her little heart wishes to. Beautiful, great dream life to have. Those are the ingredients of her recipe. What are some of the ingredients of your recipe? Look at the big picture of your dream life. What are the ingredients that compose that final recipe? After you're able to see clearly all the ingredients that are part of the wonderful recipe of your dream life, I want you to look for the most tangible one. What is the thing there that will be the most tangible, the most clear, step-by-step, black and white thing to start executing and thinking? What is something that it might depend basically on you and no one else? We want to start with the most tangible aspect of our dream life because of two things. First, it's going to help you start learning the process by applying to it. Applying to something that might be more simple than a lot of the other aspects. But also this will build up your confidence to tackle more challenging aspects of your dream life later. And when you build up your confidence, you're building up your self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is a term in psychology that talks about your self-belief. Your self-belief in your ability to do hard things. The higher is your self-efficacy, the easier it is for you to go through challenges and to get things done. So when you start with something that it might be easier than the other things, you're basically banking up belief in yourself as you're learning the system. So please start with the most tangible aspect. It will help you in the journey. And before we continue, I just really want to get be extra honest with you and very extra real and confess that yes, although it is super fun to look at our dream life, big picture, it can feel a little bit discouraging because you're like, those things seem so far away from me. Who am I to think that I can get them? But fear not, because this is where step 2 of reverse engineering comes into place. Remember the beginning of the video when I shared with you that rude study on false hope syndrome that I thought that it was calling me out, not calling only me out, it was calling us out. Yeah, that study carries with itself a very, very, very valuable lesson. When goals are too big, we are way more likely to give up. So what do we do with that information? Well, first, we repent from our sins and we tackle our goals, breaking them into small, tiny, manageable tasks. Tiny, repeatable habits are the small bricks that are gonna build your house. This whole process is about breaking things down, always into the smallest, is that correct? The smallest possible version of it. So another way to understand this is also go back to our baking example. So I said that the final product was a chocolate cake with chocolate fudge, correct? So we have eggs, we have milk, we have flour, but we have the fudge too. And the fudge is an important ingredient. You can make a fudge in many ways, but one of my favorite ways to do fudge is with condensed milk and chocolate and butter. Using our lovely pink hat lady example of being a published author, because from that list, that's the most tangible thing that we can start working. Let's think about that for a minute actually. Instead of just dreaming about writing a book, let's break down the final goal into smaller, tangible tasks. The end result is a published book. But to have a published book, she would need to have a manuscript that she's going to send to potential publishers. So our beginning point here will be the manuscript. But how do you get a manuscript done? How was the routine of someone who is today a published author when they were working on their manuscript? I did a little bit of research in this, and there are many components to getting your manuscript ready. You need to write the structure of your book. If it's a fiction book, you need to create character sheet. You need to organize the story. You need to do a lot of writing. Then you need to do a lot of editing. But overall and through it all, the basic, smallest, tiniest thing that you need to get a manuscript done is to write every day. And it can be very tempting to be like, okay, so every day I'm gonna write for 1 hour. Great idea, poor execution. Remember again, the problem with when our goals are too big, we fail because we set ourselves to fail, the false hope syndrome. We are gonna learn our lesson from that. So a psychology study can never make us feel call out again. And we're gonna make it as small as possible when we are thinking about your tiniest task. So instead of writing for 1 hour a day, our goal is gonna be write for 10 minutes a day. You literally have to ask yourself, how can I make this so easy? It will be stupid if I don't do it. Here, write 10 minutes a day. Maybe the smallest, tiniest task that you need to do to reach your specific goal is to read every day. Instead of reading for 30 minutes, I'm gonna read 2 pages. If that tiniest task that you need to do is going to the gym, instead of like, I'm gonna work out for 1 hour, you're gonna work out for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes. Whatever is the easiest, most doable, it will be super stupid if I don't do it. Like, this is so quick. That's the feeling that we wanna have when we are understanding what this smallest task is gonna be. Because once she completes this task, day in, day out, she will inevitably finish this manuscript. And then she'll be ready for the second part of the process, which is finding a publisher. And when she's ready for the second part, she's gonna ask herself lots of those same questions. How does someone find a publisher? How was the routine of a now published author when they were looking for a publisher? What type of things they used to do? From there, she's gonna create the same system of tiny, repeatable actions that she can do day in, day out until she reaches her goal. Now, when you're doing this for yourself, I want you to ask those same questions. And if you're feeling a little lost in the how-to of this goal, do a little bit of research. Take a look at people who already reached the place they want to reach and research about their routines when they were in the process of doing that. Another thing is looking for the people in your life. Do you have anyone in your life who already reached that specific goal? If so, talk to them and ask about their routine. Ask about their process. There is this very silly example that I did not share in the video in Portuguese, but I'm gonna share with you guys over here. So, exclusive content. I always dream of being a wife, more than being a mom. One of my biggest dreams in life was to be a wife. So I'd ask to a lot of people who are kind of my age, maybe like 10 years older max, and they were in a relationship, they were married already. And I would say, how was your life when you were single? How did you meet your husband? What type of places did you go? What type of things do you do? Like, how was your mindset around that? And I asked people that I admire them and admire their relationships. And I've learned a lot from that. And that really, really helped me to understand some behaviors that I was having that were not helping in my goal of finding someone and becoming someone's wife. But more of that in another video, I promise. But look in your life and think, is there anyone here that already reached, that already have the thing that I want to have? And then go and ask them. I'm sure that people are going to love to share with you. And why do we do that? Why do we do research around people that already got the thing? Because when we do those things, we make the process more tangible. When we make the process more tangible, we show ourselves, we show our brain that this dream, even though it may seem far away, actually it's not. It's possible. Other people got it. And this will help you get a more grounded, real world vision on how to get to the place that you want to get. Make it as simple and as actionable as possible. You have to take this process one step at a time, especially if you struggle with procrastination. Because if you're kind of panicking a little, thinking about having to add one more habit into your life, it doesn't matter how tiny it is, because you're afraid that you're gonna keep stuck in this cycle of procrastination all over again, this next step will help you conquer the procrastination monster once and for all. Create habit loops. I told you that the missing piece of your dream life puzzle was a two-part system, remember? Well, here we finally start tackling the second part of the system. Once you've identified the right bricks for your dream life, the next challenge is making sure that they stick. This is where habit loops come in. Think of it as the mortar that's going to hold your bricks together. So, what are habit loops? Think of your brain like a computer. It follows the same pattern every time that you do something consistently. Trigger, action, and reward. This is for good things, this is for bad things. Anytime that you do something consistently, your brain is always activating this little program. The trigger is what sets the thing in motion, what reminds you of doing that. So maybe it's an alarm, maybe it's a behavior, maybe it's a place. The behavior is the action, is what you actually do. And the reward is the instant payoff, the dopamine hit that your brain receives. And that is an explosion of feel-good hormones that's gonna make your brain hooked into doing that thing. And actually, that's one of the reasons why habit loops work so well, because it's working with our brain instead of against our brain. See, our brain does everything that it possibly can to save energy. Sometimes, have you realized that you started doing something and you didn't even thought about it? That was probably a habit loop that was running into your brain. It's like a computer program. So when we help our brain to save energy and we reward our brain for doing that, our brain is going to identify what is the pattern, what happened there in the middle that made that thing happen, because it would want for that thing to happen over and over and over. A lot of times when you procrastinate, it's just because you don't have clear or strong enough habit loop. So you're like in your computer trying to execute an action, but you're not putting the right code in. You're not putting the correct trigger, and you're not giving a reward for your brain to do it. Sometimes you have a trigger, but you don't have a reward. And sometimes you have a reward, so you don't have a trigger. So you just do things experimentally. We're gonna fix this today. This ends today. We're here to understand our brain, to help our brain, and to make sure things are running smoothly. All of us already have habit loops running into our lives, even if we're not aware of it. For example, let's think of the action brushing your teeth. So the trigger will be your alarm goes off, and then your action will be brushing your teeth. And then a reward can be the feeling of freshness that you feel in your mouth, or the fact that you grab your first cup of coffee as soon as you finish brushing your teeth. You have a trigger, you have an action, you have a reward, even if you don't think about it. So how do you create a habit loop? Let's think again about our pink hat lady. I said pink hat lady so many times in this video, and I will keep saying it, so wonderful. But let's think about her dream of being a published author. Remember, the habit that we want to start is writing for 10 minutes every day. So we need a strong trigger and a strong reward. So the trigger, what reminds her to do it? Maybe an alarm goes off. It's 10:30, her alarm goes off. The behavior, what do you actually do? She writes for 10 minutes. And then the reward, after she finishes, and that's very important, the reward needs to happen after you finish the action. What is the instant payoff? She can open a cold can of Diet Coke. and that's going to give an instant dopamine hit for her brain. We have the trigger, an alarm goes off. We have the behavior, she writes for 10 minutes, and we have the reward, a delicious cold Coke Zero. I would love for you to now think of that habit that you want to start in your life that maybe you are afraid they were going to procrastinate. What is a good trigger that you can put in? And what is a good reward that you can give yourself? Because that's basically it. The whole thing will run itself when you find the trigger, the habit, and the reward. The stronger your triggers and rewards, the easier it will be to stick to a habit. I've learned this concept through one of my favorite personal development books ever, Atomic Habits by James Clear. In this book, Clear teaches that the secret to everlasting change is to make your habits so obvious, so attractive, so satisfying that you can't ignore them. The beauty of habit loops is that they get super easy to create once you understand the formula of trigger, habit, and reward. All you need is to pick the small habit that you want to implement. Pick a good trigger, execute the habit, and then immediately reward yourself. Remember when I was sharing the story about how messy my life was at the end of 2019, and then how things completely changed a few months after? Okay, let me dive into it. In 2020, I read Atomic Habits for the first time, and it was mind-blowing. But 2020 also was a very challenging year for me and for a lot of us because it was the year of COVID. But I went through a few other complications also. I had just moved to the United States in the end of 2019 because I was engaged and we were about to get married. And our wedding was booked for March of 2020. And you remember what happened in March, right? We actually had to cancel and reschedule our wedding 4 times, and we only had our wedding party in 2024, but I'm gonna tell all about this in another video because that would be like 1 more hour of stories. Well, we got married on paper through Zoom, and it was bittersweet because, like I shared with you, I've always dreamed of being someone's wife, and I found the love of my life, and I was so excited to get married. But I also have been dreaming with my big day since I was a little girl. And that day was nothing like that. It was a Zoom wedding with my family watching from Brazil because they could not travel because of all the travel restrictions. And it was, like I said, bittersweet. And I felt so lost and aimless because on top of that, I was also going through my immigration process. And when you go through an immigration process to get a green card, a residency card for the United States, the government basically asks you to completely stop working if you have any business in your country of origin, to close that business, which is what I did. I closed my business back in Brazil, and you cannot work, you cannot make any money until you get your work permit. And that can take up to 6 months, sometimes a little more, depending to where they're processing your process. So my wedding was canceled. I had to close my business. I could not work. I could not see my family. I could not leave the house. I was lost in uncertainty, and I was feeling like my hands were tied and I had no way of running my own life. So in one of my crying sessions with my husband, because they happen almost daily, I was talking to him and I don't know what to do. I feel so aimless. I feel like I'm so powerless. And it was like, hey, we need to find you a project that you're going to be able to put your attention and your focus into. So let's think about it. And after brainstorming, we got to the idea of starting a blog because when I was a teenager, I had a blog and I absolutely love it. My business back in Brazil was all about personal development. I love personal development. And then we thought about the challenge of writing this blog in English, which is not my native language. And I had just read Atomic Habits, so I was aware of habit loops. So I was like, okay, to make sure this stick, I need to create a habit loop. So my goal initially was to study about blogging 1 hour a day. And I know I told you to not make your goals too big, but this is something that I learned after. For the time it worked for me, I'm telling you the real story. So my goal was to study about blogging or writing, basically doing blog things for 1 hour a day. So I set a trigger. I looked for something that already happened in my everyday life, and that's great hack when you're trying to find a trigger. Instead of inventing a trigger and pulling a trigger out of thin air, look for how your everyday life runs. What are things that always and already happen every single day? One of those things for me is that I have breakfast every single day. So I was like, okay, my trigger will be once I finish breakfast, trigger. My action is gonna be that I'm gonna sit down at the dining room table and I'm gonna study blog things for 1 hour. And then my reward is that once I finish, I'll have my second cup of coffee a day. So trigger, after I finish my breakfast. Action is studying blog things for 1 hour. Reward, a second cup of coffee. I started doing this day in and day out. The one simple discipline habit is know tripled over time. It transformed my mornings, my mindset, and eventually evolved into a full-time business. And I got my first paid client around a year and a half later. It was beautiful, guys. Like the same day that I got my work permit, I got an email from my first brand deal. It was so special and I will never forget it. This approach opened doors to working with some dream brands for me, like Pinterest, Amazon, Maybelline, Kate Spade, and many, many more. I blog full time today. I share this with you not as a tale of instant success, because it was not an instant success, but as proof that one focused habit, it doesn't matter how small, when executed consistently, can reshape your entire path. So let's bring it all together and recap what we learned today for Pink Hat Lady. And for you, dear listener, watching us at home. To reverse engineer your life, you start by dreaming and thinking about the big end picture, and then thinking about all the little components that are part of that picture. Like when you're baking a cake, the cake is the final goal, but this cake has a lot of other ingredients and we need to list out what they are. After that, you're gonna break each one of your components into the tiny actions to get you there. And after that, to protect yourself from procrastination, you're gonna build habit loops around each one of those actions. To create a loop, you need a clear trigger, the habit that you want to execute, and then a good reward. Repeat this every day, and soon that tiny habit will become the foundation of your success. And I know that right now this can feel so far away, but I want us to look again at the bigger picture and imagine your life 1 year from now. Instead of endless cycles of start and stop and feeling frustrated about it, you've built a seamless, self-sustaining routine. Every day, your small wins add up, and before you know it, your dream life is not a dream anymore. It's your reality. I know it sounds simple, but trust me, those small little actions repeated consistently will create something extraordinary. Thank you so much for your participation, Pink Hat Lady. Guys, please, let's give a round of applause for our future best-selling author. Please, please, thank you. Wonderful. We love you. By combining reverse engineering and habit loops, you're creating your system where every day, brick by brick, you're building your dream life on autopilot. But I couldn't let you go before giving you one final challenge. Now that you got the blueprint, the two-part system of reverse engineering and habit loops, you're ready to take this baby for a spin in the real world. Because although knowledge is empowering, true transformation only comes from putting that knowledge into action. So I challenge you to take that big goal and break it down right now. After that, identify 1 or 2 micro habits, create a habit loop for each one of them, and start implementing that today. And notice how that will transform your whole routine. And here's the best part. You are already ahead of 99% of people. Because while most people stay stuck in a cycle of starting over, you have a blueprint to make success effortless. The only thing left, take the first step today. So tell me, what is one habit loop that you're committing to starting today? And if you want some help on creating your habit loop, let me know in the comments. We're gonna brainstorm together. I'm gonna reply as many comments as I can. Drop it below and I'll help you refine it. And if you wanted to go even deeper on creating a dream life that is authentic to you, check out my next video on how to discover your most authentic self. It would take things to another level. See you again so soon. Ciao, ciao.